Welcome back, deep divers. Ready to dive into something new today?
Always. What we got?
Well, today we're taking a look at karate, but not the kind with flying kicks and breaking boards.
Oh, what kind then?
We're going deeper into the world of karate etiquette. Think of it as like a secret code, you know. It reveals a whole other level of understanding about this ancient practice.
Ah, I see. Yeah, the martial arts world, it often uses these simple actions, rituals even, but they have a lot of meaning packed into them.
Exactly. It's fascinating. We've got two great sources for this deep dive. One is like a detailed guide. It's all about karate etiquette.
Okay.
And the other one, it's full of insights from like a real veteran martial artist. So are you ready to decode the deeper meaning, like behind why we bow, or even like why that karate uniform is called a gi?
Absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
always so intrigued by how different cultures can pack these really complex philosophies into like everyday practices.
Me too. And our first source jumps right into like pre-training prep. It's way more than just showing up. You wouldn't believe how much attention to detail there is, like proper grooming, no jewelry, even how you tie your belt. There's a specific way. It's pretty crazy why all this emphasis on like uniformity and these tiny details.
We see the dojo, that's the training space. It's kind of seen as almost sacred. You know, it's meant to be this separate place from the everyday world, a place where you can kind of shed those distractions and your ego.
Mm.
And having everyone in uniform helps with that. It doesn't matter what your status is outside the dojo, everyone's there to learn and grow.
So it's kind of like hitting a reset button before you even step onto the mat.
Exactly.
I was reading that, the gi itself, that traditional uniform, it's made from like different fabrics and weaves, and it even depends on your level of training.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, beginners usually wear a lighter gi, like single weave, but advanced students, they might choose a heavier fabric, double weave, something that can withstand more intense training.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a really cool detail. It shows how every little thing in the dojo, even the fabric of your clothes, it all has a deeper meaning.
Yeah.
And even the way you tie your belt, it always has to be symmetrical, not perfectly centered. It just keeps reinforcing that focus on balance and precision, which are like core principles of karate, right?
I love that even something as simple as tying a knot has significance, but it's not just about the clothing, right? There's a whole ritual around like how you enter the dojo, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
It's all about respect and awareness, even from that first step you take inside.
The source mentions taking off your shoes, putting them neatly together, tips facing out, then you do a specific greeting, and it even depends on whether the teacher's there or not. What's the reason for all that? It feels like a little ceremony.
It It is, in a way. Each action, it has a meaning, like those outward-facing shoes. It's symbolic. You're ready to leave quickly if you have to, if there's an emergency. Little nod to that warrior spirit of karate, always prepared. And the greetings, well, there's Richure, that's a standing bow when you enter and leave. And then if the teacher's there, you do Zare, a deeper bow from a kneeling position. It's about hierarchy and respect, for that whole lineage of karate.
Wow. So even like the depth of the bow changes depending on how much respect you're showing. I mean, I'm starting to see how this hidden language is way more than just, what you see on the surface.
Right, and we're only just scratching the surface here. Now, how about we take a closer look at one of those most iconic things in karate, the bow.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack the bow. We see it all the time in movies and stuff, but you're saying there's way more to it than just a casual hello.
Way more, way more. In karate, every bow, or rei, as it's called in Japanese, it's a real physical representation of respect and humility.
So when you bow, what are you actually acknowledging?
Well, you're acknowledging the dojo itself. All the history and the tradition it represents. You're acknowledging those teachers who've passed the art down, your fellow students, and of course the instructor.
Hmm.
It's really a moment to ground yourself, set your ego aside, and just acknowledge how connected everyone is within the dojo.
That's that's incredible. It's not just like bending over. It's a whole mental shift. It's like you're saying, I'm stepping into this special space with all this history, all this philosophy, and it's part of everything we do here.
You got it.
Yeah.
It really sets the tone for the whole training session. Speaking of which, have you ever noticed how the students are all lined up so specifically on the tatami during training?
Yes. They're not just like scattered around randomly, are they?
No, no, not at all. The tatami, that's the traditional Japanese flooring made from rice straw. It's arranged very carefully to show the hierarchy of the dojo. The senior students, or senpai, they're in the front rows.
Okay.
And the junior students, the kohai, they're positioned behind them.
So it's not about like ego or showing off, right?
Hmm.
Who's the best or something.
No, definitely not. It's really about learning and respect. Those who've been training longer, they guide those who are new. It's a visual representation of how knowledge gets passed down.
Huh. It's like when a master craftsman teaches their apprentice, right?
Exact.
The senpai are leading by example. The kohai can watch and learn from all their technique and experience. What a cool system. But there's also that rule about silence during training, right? You can't just chat with your friend while you're practicing your kicks.
Right? You can't. You have to be quiet. Refrain from speaking
Yeah.
unless the instructor says you can.
Honestly, I come from a world where everyone's always talking. That sounds really hard. So is it all about focus?
Focus is definitely a big part of it. When there aren't distractions, you're forced to be present, to be attentive, not just to the instructor, but also to your own body, your own practice.
Okay.
But it goes deeper than that, too. This is about learning to control yourself, your impulses.
So it's not just about being quiet, it's about choosing when you speak, when you stay silent.
Exactly.
That's actually a really valuable skill, even outside of karate.
Absolutely. It's training for the mind as much as the body. It's about being present and intentional with your actions.
This is amazing. It seems like every single part of karate etiquette has a deeper meaning. It's like a hidden language. Every gesture, every ritual, there's this layer of philosophy and wisdom underneath.
And we've only just started to decode it. Next up, let's see how this hidden language plays out even when you're handling the training equipment.
Okay, am I gonna learn the proper way to hold a punching bag?
Well, punching bags are important, of course. But even like simpler tools, like practice swords or focus mitts, there's etiquette for how you handle those too.
Really? So how do you even pick up a practice sword without like making the whole dojo mad at you?
It might sound a little much, but you use both hands to receive and return any item, and then you bow.
Hold on, you bow to the equipment?
It's not like worshiping the objects themselves or anything like that. It's more about, cultivating this attitude of respect. It should be in everything you do in the dojo. It's a way of acknowledging the tools that you're using to help you train and showing appreciation for everyone who came before you, who helped develop this art.
That actually makes me think of something our second source mentioned, the Trinity principle.
Oh, right. Yeah.
What does that even mean, like in the world of karate?
So the Trinity principle, it's about how the mind, body, and spirit are all connected.
Okay.
And it says that to really master anything, you have to develop all three of those things together in harmony.
So karate's not just about like being strong and knowing the moves.
Nope, not at all. Physical training, yeah, that'll get your body in shape. But it's the etiquette, the discipline, and that mental focus. Those are what really refine the mind and cultivate the spirit.
That makes a lot of sense. But how does all this etiquette actually fit into learning karate? Our first source said something that I thought was really strange. It said you're not supposed to just like ask the teacher questions directly.
Yeah.
It seems so backwards. How are you supposed to learn if you can't ask questions?
It is a pretty different way of thinking about learning, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
In Western education, they always want you to ask questions. But in traditional karate, it's more about observing and reflecting and coming to your own conclusions.
So instead of like peppering the teacher with questions, you're supposed to watch carefully, take it all in,
Yeah.
and try to figure things out on your own.
That's it. It makes you think harder, and it makes you a more active part of your own learning.
Right.
And remember, the instructor isn't just teaching moves. They're showing you a whole way of thinking, a way of moving through the world.
Mm-hmm.
And when you watch and think about it, you start to really embody those principles.
That's really interesting. It's like they're silently mentoring you, they're guiding you, but you have to find your own path.
Yeah.
But what if you're really lost? Do you just like wander around confused forever?
No, of course not. That's where the whole senpai-kohai relationship comes in. You can't just ask the instructor directly, but junior students, they can always go to the senior students for help.
Okay.
The senpai, they act like mentors, They give support, they clear things up based on what they've learned. It creates this really cool system of shared learning, everyone helping each other out.
So the learning isn't just coming from the teacher. You've got this whole network of support from other students.
Yeah, exactly.
It really emphasizes how important that community is in karate training.
Yeah. And that community feeling, it gets even stronger because of another big part of etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
You always have to put the well-being of your fellow students first.
Oh, interesting.
Our first source gave a bunch of examples, like
Mm.
making sure everyone can see during demonstrations or, helping each other stretch and warm up.
It's so nice to hear about a learning environment where, everyone's working together, supporting each other. It doesn't sound like it's all about competition, which is really refreshing.
It's not just about fighting, you know? It's about building respect, discipline, mindfulness, and having a deeper connection with yourself and the people around you.
So we've talked about how training starts, how the learning happens in the dojo. But what about when training's over? There's something called mokuso, right?
Yeah, mokuso.
What's that all about?
Mokuso is it's a type of seated meditation that you do at the end of training.
Okay.
It's like a bridge between all that physical stuff you were just doing and a state of quiet reflection.
So you go from like intense physical activity to being completely still. What's that actually look like?
So you sit in this specific posture called seiza. It's kneeling, back straight, hands resting, palms up in your lap.
Yeah.
And the goal is to clear your mind and just focus on your breathing. It's a time to really process everything you learned during training, both the physical stuff and the mental stuff.
It sounds like a good way to kind of absorb everything you just went through. But it's not just about like sitting there quietly, right? Our source said something about bowing to pictures of like past masters and the
Wait.
teacher.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Those final bows. It's a way to acknowledge that line of knowledge that's been passed down through generations. You bow to the images of the past masters first, the ones who came before and built the art. Then you bow to the teacher, to thank them for their guidance. And finally, you bow to the other students because you're all on this journey of learning and growing together.
Wow, it's like a closing ceremony that ties everything together, It really brings home that sense of community and connection.
Exactly. It reminds you that you're part of something bigger than just yourself, a tradition that goes way beyond the walls of the dojo.
From the outside looking in, karate etiquette can seem really strict and formal.
Yeah.
But the more we dig into it, the more I see it as this really well-designed system for growing as a person and discovering yourself.
That's a great way to put it. It's like the structure and the discipline. They actually give you freedom. When you follow these rules and rituals, it frees your mind from all those distractions. So you can really dive deeper into the practice, both physically and mentally.
It's like the etiquette is a map,
Awesome.
It guides you through this complex world of tradition and philosophy and self-improvement.
I love that analogy. And it's important to remember that this map, it's not just for people who do karate. These core values like respect and humility and focus and self-control and mindfulness, they can help you in every part of your life.
So even if we never set foot in a dojo, we can still learn from the wisdom that's built into karate etiquette.
Absolutely.
But how can we actually use these ideas in our own lives?
That's a great question. Why don't we explore some practical ways to apply these principles in our next segment?
Okay, yeah, I'm ready for that. How do we take something like bowing to a piece of equipment and make it relevant to our normal lives? It feels a little bit of a stretch.
Well, it's not about literally bowing to your, computer or your coffee mug or whatever.
Right.
It's about having that same respect and appreciation, even for those everyday things in your life.
Yeah.
It's about seeing how everything's connected and approaching every interaction, every task you do with mindfulness and intention.
So instead of just rushing through my to-do list, I should try to approach each task with purpose, and be grateful for it.
Exactly. It's about changing how you think about things. Instead of feeling like you have to do something, you appreciate it. And that little shift can make a big difference in how you experience your whole day.
Yeah, I like that. What about not interrupting the teacher? Obviously, we can't just not talk in our everyday lives, but is there a way to apply that idea to how we talk to people?
It's about really listening to people when they're talking, active listening. Instead of just thinking about what you're going to say next, trying to really hear what the other person is saying.
Okay.
Pay attention to their words,
Mm.
how they're standing, their tone of voice. Try to understand their point of view, even if you don't agree with them.
I do that all the time. I catch myself thinking about what I'm going to say while the other person's still talking. It's
Yeah.
like I'm so focused on making my point that I'm not really connecting with them.
That happens to a lot of people. We live in a world where everyone wants to be quick and witty,
Yeah.
But real connection, it comes from really listening, being present in that moment, and giving the other person space to be heard.
It's like that karate thing of quieting your mind so you can focus on your training. We could all use a little bit of that in our conversations.
For sure.
Yeah.
And what about that idea of putting other people first? How can we take that outside the dojo?
Yeah, good question.
It's about having empathy and compassion in all your relationships. Think about what the people around you need and do things that help them, even if it's something small.
So it's not about like these big gestures or being a hero. It's those little everyday things that can make someone's day.
Yeah, exactly. Like holding the door open for someone,
Hmm.
helping them if they're carrying something heavy, just saying something nice or even just a genuine smile. Those little things, they can make a difference. They can create a more positive and caring environment for everyone.
It's like taking that sense of community from the dojo and spreading it out into the world, making it part of how we live our lives every day.
That's a great way to put it. And what about mokuso? That sounds like something that could really help us, in this busy world where we're always connected to something.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Mokuso.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful way to be more mindful and find some inner peace. Even just taking a few minutes each day to be silent, focus on your breath, and just observe your thoughts and feelings without judging them, it can make a huge difference in how you feel, both mentally and emotionally.
It's like hitting pause on all that information and noise that's always coming at us.
Yeah.
Just a few moments of quiet to reconnect with yourself and find that inner calm.
Right. It's about creating space for yourself to think, to listen to your intuition, and to feel present even when everything around you is chaotic.
Wow. So a deep dive into karate etiquette, and we end up with all this wisdom about how to live a better life. It's like we found this secret treasure chest of knowledge hidden behind all these simple rules and rituals.
It's funny how the most important truths are often right there in front of us, just waiting for us to see them.
Well, deep divers, that's the end of our exploration into the amazing world of karate etiquette. We hope you had fun decoding this hidden language with us, and we hope you learned some valuable things that you can take with you, not just in the dojo, but in your everyday life.
Remember, even the smallest things can have big meanings. So stay curious, keep exploring, and remember that real strength, it doesn't just come from being physically strong. It comes from building respect, discipline, and mindfulness in every part of who you are.
Well said. And until next time, keep those minds curious, those hearts open, and remember, there's always more to discover on the deep dive.